Alright, so we're going to go ahead and check out the Theoreticus Heresy episode 11. I don't really have much to say right now. I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen. I have been forewarned that at least one person did not like something that happened soon. We'll see. But I'm just going to hit play on this, and we're just going to roll. How about that? Let's go.
Within the Prospero system, the Space Wolves Legion prepared for battle. While the Rogol Dawn wished to bring Magnus into the fold, Leman Russ despised the Primarch of the Thousand Suns. He viewed his legion as weak, cowardly, and unworthy to be called warriors. The Space Wolf Armada began to systematically destroy the orbital defense platforms orbiting the world of Prospero, sending burning wreckage to drift lifelessly in the icy void of space. Prospero would not survive this day, and Leman Russ smiled at the prospect of not only humiliating, but destroying his sorceress brother. On Prospero's surface, alarms were soon raised. The planet was under attack. Magnus the Red ordered for his legion to prepare for battle, and to ready the various sorceress cults to utilize them in the upcoming conflict. Despite the custodians on the world ordering Magnus that he was forbidden to do so, Magnus responded by saying that if they were to survive this battle, he would accept any form of punishment his father would sentence him.
Good boy, good lad.
The skies would rain fire as hundreds upon hundreds of drop pods and Thunderhawk gunships began to descend from orbit. Planetary defense lasers fired repeatedly, filling the burning sky with flashes of blue light. And while destroying many, there were simply far too many to stop them all. With thunderous impacts, the drop pods crashed into the planet, and the frenzied warriors of the...
Okay, I honestly think at this point that with a prepared Magnus, I don't know if the Space Wolves are going to make it out of this, but still.
Space Wolves Legion emerged, charging towards their cousins like frothing berserkers of legend. The thousand sons of the Pyre and Pavoni cults began to open fire with jets of psychic fire and crackling arcs of warp lightning, while the members of the Raptora launched bombardments of large boulders and heavy debris in a desperate attempt to hold back the great tide of savagery. Devastator Marines and the artillery of the planet's Spire Guard fired continuously, to the point of their weapons glowing red hot and overheating. Leman Russ led his men from the front lines, butchering the mortal Spire Guard soldiers and the Thousand Sons' own assault troops with relative ease. But he began to rage. His men were unable to reach the cowardly sorcerers. As Russ continued to kill and cleave and carve his way through the ranks of the Loyalists, the sky itself began to turn blood red, and a fine mist began to creep along the cracked ground.
Yeah, this is what I thought was going to happen with
Magnus
him.
the Red himself joined the battle, surrounded by his Terminator-clad bodyguards of the Scarab Occult and the Custodies close behind. The Wolf King howled in bloody fury, swearing an oath he would personally take his brother's head and present it to the War Master. Magnus the Red conjured up a massive storm of ethereal lightning across the battlefield, managing to keep the wolves at bay for a time. Leman Russ himself tried to push forward, feeling the lightning burning his flesh and armor and howling in rage at Magnus's cowardice. He then felt a voice speak to him in his mind, offering him the power to slay the sorcerer in return for blood. And with a thought, the pact was made. Leman Russ howled in torturous pain, a howl so blood-curdling that it was a sound no living being could ever make. He felt his bones lengthen and stretch, his armor
First Demon
buckled
Prince.
and split, and his skull shifted and elongated as the Primarch grew in size. A huge pair of leathery wings emerged from his spine, covered in the tattered remains of human flesh. The Space Wolves closest to him also began to change, their bodies shifting and mutating into roaring, feral, bestial creatures.
More than what they already were.
The creature that was Leman Russ flexed his newly acquired wings, raised his lupine head to the sky, and roared.
So, Leman Russ is now what Angron was. Okay. I can see it. I can definitely see it. A major part of this entire, theory craft has been the lessening of certain traits, and Lehman's loyalty to the Emperor is definitely that trait that was loosened on this one. As well as some of his other traits, but I can definitely see it for this. Moving right along. All right, here we go. Next. All right, so here we go.
The battle for Prospero raged. Leman Russ had been blessed by the Blood God and had ascended to a demon prince, the Red Wolf of Khorne. The beast gripped in its taloned hands perverted versions of his former weapons, a massive axe and long serrated sword, both made from blackened iron and wreathed in warp fire, the color of blood. Russ rushed towards his former brother, Magnus the Red, hacking at him with his demonic blades, the unholy weaponry clashing against Magnus's own Khopesh blade, sending vast amounts of sparks from the metal like petals of light. Magnus tried to bring his immense psychic might to bear against the beast that used to be Leman Russ, but his powers had no effect. The thick brass collar around the demon's neck nullifying all psychic energy around him.
Brass collar. Effectively, Space Wolves are now Space Corgis.
Magnus, with his mind's eye, saw this, and with a surge of adrenaline, pushed the creature back before lunging forward, clasping his hands around the collar. His hands were punctured by the thick metal spikes protruding from it, blood flowing like a river from his hands. But using his preternatural strength, ripped the collar from Russ's neck, shattering the metal, and blasted him back with immense psychic force. Magnus fell to one knee as Leman Russ staggered back to his feet, and with the feral wolfen creatures bounding towards him. Magnus had only one thing left to do. Using the last of his great psychic might, he teleported most of his forces onto a lone battle barge that survived the void battle with the Space Wolves fleet, leaving the Primarch alone with the Custodes against the entire Space Wolves Legion, who were baying for blood. Magnus rose up and gripped his Khopesh tightly. He turned to the golden-clad warriors beside him and let out a single loud cry before charging towards the beast that was no longer his brother. For the Emperor. The Phalanx received a transmission from the Space Wolves Legion. It was a short transmission, displaying the severed heads of Magnus the Red and the Custodes who had died alongside him in battle. Leman Russ then appeared on the screen, displaying his new demonic wolf-like form, smiling with a predator's grin. Rogul Dawn nodded and smiled, recognizing the form Russ now took as similar to one of the godly beings from the warp. Magnus was one of the most dangerous wild cards in this upcoming conflict, and with his removal, the War Master believed he and his forces now held the advantage. He received another transmission from his brother, Rabute Gilliman. The Lord of Ultramar smiled and nodded. Everything was going to plan, and more of their brothers had seen the light of their cause. Rogel Dorn nodded and told his brother to prepare them for war. The Emperor, saddened by the damage suffered to the webway and to the Golden Throne, knew that a powerful Psyker must now sit upon it and use their abilities to prevent a warp tear from engulfing all of Terra. He tried to send a psychic probe to his son, Magnus the Red, but then, for the first time in hundreds of years, felt fear. He could no longer feel his son's presence. His once burning light snuffed out like a dying candle. The Emperor knew something was afoot and ordered the recall of the Iron Warriors Legion to Terra. The world needed to be reinforced for the upcoming conflict. Little did he know how soon said conflict would come.
Okay, now I have a major point of contention with this because Magnus losing to Russ doesn't seem probable to me. Doesn't even seem somewhat likely, even in Demon Prince form. Even as a Demon Prince, I really don't see Magnus losing to Russ. That being said, disappointing. Very disappointing. But we'll see what 13, 14 hold. We'll see relatively soon. Well, gotta say, I was excited and now I'm disappointed. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Catch you guys next time.